That will never change the fact that I'm going to fight for them to have health care.
You want to tax the rich? Great start with your dress designer. The room exploded. That's how it started. That's how Donald Trump destroyed Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in 60 minutes of live television. Not with policy papers, not with political consultants, with receipts, photographs, and the kind of brutal honesty that makes cable news producers simultaneously panic and celebrate. CNN Special Town Hall, Miami, Florida. Tuesday night. 200 people packed into a television studio that smelled like hairspray and ambition. Split down the middle. MAGA hats on the right. Green New Deal pins on the left. Anderson Cooper in the center, silver-haired, and already regretting every decision that led him to this moment. Trump entered first. Navy suit, red tie, American flag pin. The walk, the wave, the point. 78 years old, and still working a room like a Vegas headliner. He settled into his chair with the confidence of a man who'd been doing this since before AOC was born. Then she walked out. Cream blazer designer-cut statement earrings catching the studio lights. Purple dress underneath someone would later identify it as a $400 Reformation piece. Her trademark bold lip. That million-watt smile she'd perfected for Instagram. 13 million followers. The squad. The future of the Democratic Party. She thought she was ready. Anderson Cooper cleared his throat. Welcome to CNN's Town Hall confronting America's future tonight. Anderson, can I just say something? Trump didn't wait for permission. Never did. I want to thank CNN for having us. I know we've had our differences, fake news, witch hunts, you know the drill. But tonight, I think the American people are going to learn something very important. He turned to AOC, smiled. The kind of smile a shark gives right before it bites. Alexandria. Can I call you Alexandria? Beautiful name. You look very nice tonight. Very professional. Very put together. Is that outfit new? It looks new. AOC's smile tightened. Thank you, Mr. President, because we're going to be talking a lot about money tonight. About who has it. About who spends it. About who pretends not to have it while living like they do. Trump leaned back. So, I wanted to start by acknowledging, you look expensive. The left side of the audience bristled. The right side leaned forward. Anderson Cooper looked like a man watching a car crash in slow motion. Let's begin, he said weakly. And the massacre began. The first question came from a middle-aged woman in a Tax the Rich t-shirt. Perfect casting. CNN had chosen well. Representative Ocasio-Cortez, how do you respond to critics who say you don't live the values you preach? AOC uncrossed her legs, leaned forward. This was her wheelhouse. She'd answered this 1,000 times on Twitter, MSNBC, The View. She had the talking points memorized. Thank you for that question. Look, this critique comes from people who fundamentally misunderstand what we're fighting for. I'm not saying everyone should be poor. I'm saying everyone should have access. Anderson, can I? Trump raised his hand like a kid in class who already knows the answer, because this is going to be fun. This is going to be tremendous fun. Anderson sighed. Mr. President, it's not your turn. I know. But she said something about living her values, and I got to respond to this because I have receipts. So many receipts. He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen. Suddenly, the massive monitors flanking the stage lit up with images from the 2021 Met Gala. There was AOC, white flowing gown. Tax the Rich, emblazed across the back, in blood-red letters. Radiant, confident, surrounded by New York's elite. The left side of the audience erupted in applause. They remembered this. They loved this. OC taking her message to the establishment. Revolutionary fashion. Eat the rich while looking fabulous. Trump waited for the applause to die down, still smiling. Beautiful dress, he said, voice dripping with false sincerity. Really beautiful, very elegant, very auteur. That's French, by the way. Means expensive. Now, who designed this? AOC lifted her chin. Aurora James, a black woman designer. I was supporting expensive fashion. Trump nodded because that dress cost about $50,000, give or take. Pause. Let it land. 50,000, he said each word separately, for address that says, tax the rich. The irony is, Trump kissed his fingers like a chef. Magnificent. The screen changed. More photos. AOC posing with Anna Wintour, editor of Vogue, net worth around $50 million. AOC laughing with Katy Perry, net worth $330 million. AOC clinking champagne glasses with people whose combined wealth could fund a small country. Trump stood up, started gesturing at the screen like a prosecutor presenting evidence. So, let me understand this. You went to a party, not a fundraiser for the homeless, not a community center in the Bronx, not a soup kitchen, a party where tickets cost Anderson how much? Anderson consulted his notes already, knowing where this was going. $35,000. $35,000? Trump repeated, letting it echo. Now, your ticket was comped. Very nice of them. Very generous. But let's talk about what this event actually is. It's rich people wearing expensive clothes to look at expensive art while eating expensive food and drinking expensive champagne. He zoomed in on another photo. AOC with a glass in her hand. Dom Perignon. I know my champagnes. I've drunk a lot of champagne. This is Dom Perignon. Runs about $200 a bottle, maybe $300 at an event like this. Trump walked closer to the monitors, pointed. And who are you with Anna Wintour? $50 million. Katy Perry. $330 million. Is that Rihanna? Oh boy, she's pushing $1 billion now. Good for her. I love Rihanna. Great businesswoman. He turned back to AOC, and there you are in the middle of it all. Wearing your $50,000 tax the rich dress, drinking their champagne, smiling for their cameras, while the average American, the people you claim to represent, were doing what that night paused theatrical working 2 jobs, maybe coming home exhausted, trying to figure out how to pay rent, how to afford groceries, how to save something, anything for their kids' future. Trump's voice rose. And you? You were at a museum gala with billionaires wearing a dress that costs more than they make in a year, drinking champagne that costs more than their weekly grocery bill. He paused. Let the camera linger on AOC's face. She was flushed now, angry or embarrassed. Hard to tell. The only thing missing was a crown. Trump shook his head. You could have been Marie Antoinette. Let them eat socialism perfect. Just perfect. The right side erupted in laughter and applause. Even some people on the left were smiling uncomfortably. The cognitive dissonance was too strong. AOC tried to respond. Mr. President, you're deliberately missing the point. The dress was a statement. A statement? Trump clapped his hands together. Yes, a statement that you can be a socialist and still spend more on one outfit than most Americans spend on clothes in their entire lives. That's a hell of a statement. He sat back down, still grinning. But we're just getting started. Oh man, we are just getting started. Folks at home, if you're watching, and I know you are, CNN's ratings are going through the roof right now. Stay tuned because the Met Gala dress, that's nothing. Wait till you hear about her Tesla. Anderson Cooper looked at his notes, looked at the ceiling, probably praying for commercial break. No such luck. Trump was in his element now. This wasn't a debate. This wasn't even a discussion. This was a performance. And he'd been performing his whole life. He pulled out a folder. Manila, thick, stuffed with papers, set it on his lap and patted it like a loyal dog. "I've been doing research," he said, looking directly at the camera. "My people? I have the best people. The smartest people. They've been digging, and boy did they find things. So many things." AOC's lawyer sitting in the front row was furiously texting. This was spiraling. This was supposed to be a balanced forum. Where was the balance? Trump saw the lawyer, smiled at him. "Don't worry, counselor. Everything I'm about to say is public record. FEC filings, Instagram posts, news articles, all public, all verifiable." He looked at the camera again. "In fact, I encourage everyone watching to Google this stuff. Look it up yourself. Don't take my word for it." He opened the folder. More papers spilled out. "Now I'm a billionaire. Everyone knows that. I live in a penthouse. I fly in a private jet. I eat at the best restaurants. I wear expensive suits. This one's Brunei. About $6,000. Very nice." He spread his hands. "But here's the difference between me and Alexandria. I don't pretend to be something I'm not. I don't lecture people about wealth inequality while living like royalty. I'm rich and I'm honest about it. She's rich and she pretends she's not." Trump pulled out a piece of paper. Congressional salary $174,000 a year. That's more than the average American makes. Way more. That puts her in the top 10% of earners in this country. He looked at AOC. "But you talk like you're struggling, like you're barely getting by, like you're one of the people. Sweetheart, you're not one of the people anymore. You're one of us. The elite, the establishment, the swamp." He stood up again, started pacing. "And that would be fine. There's nothing wrong with making money. America is about making money, but don't pretend you're poor while driving a $60,000 car." The audience stirred. Someone shouted, "Tell her." Anderson tried to intervene. "Mr. President, let's give Representative Ocasio-Cortez a chance to—" "Oh, she'll get her chance," Trump said. "But I'm not done. Not even close. Because we haven't talked about the Tesla, the apartment, the boyfriend, the grandmother." He ticked them off on his fingers. "We have so much to cover, so much." He sat back down, looked at AOC, ready for round two. She wasn't. Trump didn't wait for permission, pulled up more photos on his phone. "Let's talk about your car. You drive a Tesla, right?" AOC nodded wearily. "Yes, I drive an electric vehicle because you care about the environment. I get it. Very noble." Trump nodded. "But let's talk about the price tag. A Tesla. What model do you have?" "A Model 3. Model 3. Okay. Base model. Pause. No. Long-range performance. Longer. Pause. Long range." Trump pulled up a screenshot. Tesla website pricing page. Long range. Model 3. $60,000 plus taxes and fees. You're looking at 65, maybe 70,000 total. He showed it to the camera. Now, there's nothing wrong with a $60,000 first. I've bought cars that cost 10 times that, but I don't go around pretending I'm a champion of the working class. He pulled up another document. This one looked like a spreadsheet. Congressional travel records, public information. When you go from New York to D.C., that's about 225 miles. How do you usually get there? AOC hesitated. "It depends on my schedule." "You fly?" Trump said it flatly. 52 flights in the last 2 years, 225 miles. There's a train, Alexandria. Beautiful train. Amtrak. Takes about 3 hours. Very comfortable. You can work on the train, sleep on the train. It's great. He held up the spreadsheet. But you flew 52 times. Know how many times you took the train? 18. Less than a third. Trump started doing math on his fingers. So let's calculate your carbon footprint. 52 flights. About 200 tonnes of CO2 per flight per person. That's about 10,000 tonnes of CO2. Just from commuting. The average American produces about 16 tons of CO2 per year total. You're producing almost a ton just from flying 200 miles. He pulled up a comparison chart. Your total estimated CO25 metric tons per year. Average American, 16. You're producing almost 5 times more carbon than the people you're lecturing about climate change. The audience gasped. Even Democrats looked surprised. But wait. Trump held up a hand. There's more because we haven't talked about your apartment. He pulled up a building photo. Modern, sleek, glass and steel. Navy Yard. Very nice area of D.C. Very trendy. Very expensive. You live in a luxury building there. How much is rent? AOC looked at her lawyer. He shook his head slightly. About $3,000 a month, she said quietly. $3,000 a month, Trump repeated. That's $36,000 a year just on rent. But let's talk about what you get for that money. He pulled up the building's website, read from the amenities list. Quote, 24-hour concierge, rooftop pool with skyline views, yoga studio, wellness center, pet spa. End quote. He looked up. A pet spa. Your building has a spa for dogs. The gallery erupted in laughter. Even Anderson Cooper was smiling. Now I love dogs. Great animals. Loyal. Better than most people. But a spa, Trump's voice rose. While your constituents are choosing between paying rent and buying medicine, your building has a facility to give massages to dogs. He was laughing now, genuinely delighted by the absurdity. You can't make this stuff up, folks. You literally cannot make this stuff up. He pulled out more documents. But here's my favorite part, and this is recent. Data breach last year. Very unfortunate for some people, very fortunate for others. Uber and Lyft both got hacked. User data leaked. AOC's face went pale, including yours. And guess what? We found 149 rides in D.C. over 2 years. He showed a screenshot. 49 Uber and Lyft rides in a city that has a metro, that has buses, that has bike shares, that has those little electric scooters on every corner. Trump zoomed in on specific rides. Here's a good one. June 15th, climate rally at the Capitol. You spoke about reducing carbon emissions. Very passionate speech. Got a lot of retweets. He pulled up the next image. And here's you 2 hours later, leaving that climate rally in an Uber going 3 miles. 3 miles. You could walk that in 40 minutes. But no Uber. Another image appeared. AOC holding a coffee cup. And look at what you're holding. Starbucks, plastic cup, plastic lid at a climate rally about reducing plastic waste. The cognitive dissonance was overwhelming. Even AOC's supporters in the audience were cringing. Trump sat back down, closed that section of his folder. So, let me summarize. You drive a $60,000 car while claiming to represent the working class. You fly when you could take the train while lecturing others about carbon footprints. You live in a luxury building with a dog spa while your constituents can't afford health care. And you take Uber to climate rallies while holding plastic coffee cups. He looked directly at her. How do you sleep at night? Oh, Wait, probably on a very expensive mattress in your luxury apartment. The right side was on their feet, standing ovation. The left side sat in stunned silence. Anderson Cooper tried to give AOC a chance to respond. Representative, would you like to? Yes, I would. AOC's voice was tight, controlled. Mr. President, you're cherry-picking data to create a narrative. Cherry-picking. Trump's eyebrows shot up. These are your choices, your spending, your carbon footprint. I didn't force you to buy a Tesla or live in a luxury building or take 1,000 Uber rides. He leaned forward. You made those choices, and they completely contradict everything you claim to believe. That's not cherry-picking. That's just pointing out the obvious. He stood up one more time. But you know what? I don't even blame you for living well. You should live well. You make good money. America is about making money and spending it how you want. But don't lecture me or anyone else about our lifestyles while you're living like this. Trump looked at the camera. And folks, if you think that's bad, wait till I tell you what she did to her own grandmother. This next part, this is the one that's going to make you mad. Really mad. Stay tuned. The room's energy shifted. Trump's tone changed. Less showman, more serious. This was about to get heavy. An older Cuban-American man stood up in the audience, tears already in his eyes. My family is from Puerto Rico. We lost everything in Hurricane Maria. My cousin died because she couldn't get insulin. Representative Ocasio-Cortez, you said you would fight for us. You said you understood what happened. AOC's entire demeanor transformed. This was personal. This was her story, her brand. She leaned forward, voice soft, emotional. Thank you for sharing that. I'm so sorry for your loss. Puerto Rico is deeply personal to me. My grandmother, my abuela, still lives there. After Hurricane Maria, her home was damaged. The roof, her voice caught slightly. The roof still hasn't been properly fixed. Every time it rains, water comes in. She's in her 80s. She's lived in that house for decades. She pulled out her phone, showed photos on the screen. An elderly woman's home. Ceiling water damage, paint peeling, structural issues visible. This is why I fight. AOC, said voice, rising with passion. Because my abuela shouldn't have to live like this. Because Puerto Ricans deserve better. Because the government failed them. Failed her. Failed all of us. The left side of the audience was emotional now, some wiping eyes. This was the AOC. They loved fighting for family, fighting for justice. The photos remained on screen, heartbreaking, undeniable evidence of suffering. Trump watched, said nothing, let her finish. Then he stood up slowly. That's terrible, he said quietly. Really terrible. I mean that. Your grandmother shouldn't have to live like that, he paused, which is why what you did next is so unforgivable. The room went silent. Trump pulled out his phone. Different images appeared. Screenshots. A GoFundMe page. June 2021, you posted those photos of your grandmother's house. Very emotional. Very moving. Got a lot of attention. Over 100,000 retweets, he showed the viral tweet. And you know who saw those photos? A guy named Matt Walsh, conservative commentator. Definitely not a fan of yours. Definitely disagrees with you on basically everything. Trump pulled up another screenshot, and you know what he did? He started a GoFundMe to raise money for your grandmother to fix her roof. The audience stirred. Democrats looked confused. Where was this going? And people donated. Trump continued. A lot of people. People who probably think socialism is stupid. people who probably vote Republican, people who definitely don't agree with your politics. He showed the final total, $14,682 in 24 hours for your Abua to fix her roof, to help her. Trump's voice hardened, and you know what you did. Pause. Let it hang. You refused it. The room exploded. Gasps, shouts, people standing up. Anderson Cooper banging his gavel. Order. Order. Trump waited for the noise to die down, then continued. You shut down the GoFundMe. You released a statement saying, quote, "It's not about one grandmother. It's about systemic change for all Puerto Ricans." End quote. He walked closer to AOC. Your grandmother needed a new roof. People raised money, more than enough money to fix it. And you said no because it wasn't systemic enough, because it came from the wrong people, because accepting help from conservatives would have undermined your narrative. Trump's voice was shaking now with genuine anger. Let me break down the math for you. The cost to fix her roof, I called contractors in Puerto Rico. 3 of them. They all said $15,000 to $25,000 maximum. He held up fingers. The GoFundMe raised $14,000. That's enough to fix her roof 4 times with money left over. And you said no. He pulled out another document. Your net worth is about $200,000. Public record. Congressional financial disclosures. You could have fixed it yourself easily. But you didn't. Trump's voice dropped to almost a whisper. So, let me ask you something. What kind of person uses their own grandmother's suffering for political points? What kind of person sees their elderly grandmother living with a leaky roof and thinks, this is great content for Twitter? What kind of person refuses help for their family because it came from people with the wrong politics? He walked back to his chair, sat down heavily. I'll tell you what kind of person. Someone who cares more about their brand than their family. Someone who values their political image more than their grandmother's comfort. Someone who's willing to let an old woman suffer if it means maintaining their narrative. The silence was crushing. In the gallery, an older woman, someone's grandmother, was crying quietly. Cameras caught it. That image would be everywhere tomorrow. Trump pulled out one final document. And you know what the saddest part is? After you refused the money, other organizations reached out. A Puerto Rican charity offered to help. You know what your office said? He read from the paper. Quote, the Congresswoman's office did not respond to our inquiries. End quote. You didn't even respond. Trump looked at AOC. She was staring at the table. Not at him, not at the cameras, just down. The money from the GoFundMe. Since you refused it, it was redistributed to other Puerto Rican families. 12 families got their roofs fixed. 12 grandmothers are now dry when it rains. 12 families whose congresswoman isn't Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. He paused. Lucky them. Even Anderson Cooper looked stricken. This was brutal. This was beyond politics. This was personal. This was family. AOC finally spoke, her voice small. The money was politically motivated. So what? Trump exploded. Who cares why they wanted to help? The roof would still be fixed. Your grandmother would still be dry, but you couldn't let that happen because it came from conservatives. He stood up one more time. You know what this tells me? You don't actually care about helping people. You care about being seen as the one who helps people. There's a difference. And your grandmother learned it the hard way. Trump looked at the camera one final time. Folks, remember this. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez just showed you she'd rather let her own grandmother suffer than accept help from people she disagrees with politically. He sat down. Now, let's talk about where all your money actually goes. Because, spoiler alert, a lot of it goes to your boyfriend. Trump didn't give AOC time to recover. Pulled out a new folder. This one had FEC written on the tab. Let's talk about your husband, current husband, Tim Minette. AOC's jaw tightened. Tim is a political consultant. Oh, he's more than that. Trump grinned. He's the owner of E Street Group, a consulting firm that your campaign has paid. He made a show of checking the numbers. $2.8 million since 2019. He let that number hang in the air. $2.8 million to your husband's company while he was your husband. Actually, let me back up. When did the affair start? AOC's lawyer was on his feet. Mr. Chairman, this is completely inappropriate. Sit down, Trump said, not looking at him. It's a matter of public record. His ex-wife filed for divorce, cited the affair in the filing. Court documents. Anyone can read them. He pulled up the filing on screen. Quote, defendant told plaintiff he was romantically involved with and in love with another woman, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. End quote. Trump showed a chart timeline payment amounts graphed against the affair timeline. April 2019, that's when he told his wife. That's when your payments to his company started spiking. April 50,000, May 75,000, June 100,000. The amounts kept growing, almost like you were paying him for something other than consulting. He pulled up receipts. 4 Seasons Los Angeles, 2 nights, $850 per night. Charged to campaign through E Street Group as strategy session. Trump looked at the audience, eyebrows raised. Strategy session at the 4 Seasons. I've had strategy sessions. None of them required the 4 Seasons. More laughter. St. Regis, New York. Presidential suite. $1,200 per night. 3 nights. Campaign expense. Donor outreach coordination. He shook his head in mock disbelief. The presidential suite for donor outreach. Were the donors in the suite? Because that seems like a very intimate donor meeting. The audience was roaring now. Even some Democrats were laughing despite themselves. Trump pulled up a comparison chart. Average congressional campaign consulting fees, $50,000 per cycle, maybe $100,000 for competitive races. He showed AOC's payments. Your payments to E Street Group, $2.8 million over 4 years, $700,000 per year. That's 14 times the industry average. He turned to face her directly. Now, either Tim Minette is the greatest political consultant in American history, which seems unlikely since your approval ratings have dropped 12 points since you hired him, or you're paying him for something else. Trump pulled out his phone, showed her approval ratings. Graph trending down. Yep, down. Consistently down. So, probably not the consulting. He sat on the edge of his chair. Here's what I think happened. And you tell me if I'm wrong. You met Tim. He was married. You were married or living with someone. It's hard to keep track with you. You fell in love. Had an affair. 2 marriages exploded. Very dramatic. Very passionate. He gestured broadly. And then you thought, how do I keep seeing him? How do I keep paying him? I know campaign funds. I'll just funnel millions through his consulting company. Nobody will notice. Trump leaned forward. Except people noticed. The FEC noticed. They're investigating you right now. Federal Election Commission. They think you might have violated campaign finance law, using donor money for personal expenses. He pulled out the FEC complaint, showed it to camera. This is a felony, by the way, if convicted. Just saying. Martha Stewart went to prison for less. Trump stood up, started pacing again. But you know what kills me? What really kills me? The people who donated to you. Working people. People sending you $27. Their grocery money. Their gas money. thinking it's going to your campaign to fight for them. His voice rose. And instead, it's going to your boyfriend's company, so you too can stay in presidential suites, so you can fly first class, so you can live like movie stars while pretending to be champions of the poor. He stopped pacing, looked directly at her. You're not a champion of the poor. You're robbing the poor to fund your lifestyle. Trump walked back to his folders, pulled out another one. And speaking of robbing people, let's talk about your merchandise. Because this is my favorite part. This is where it gets really good. Trump's energy shifted again back to entertainer mode. This was fun for him. This was theater. Can we talk about your merch? He was almost pleading. Please, I got to talk about the merch. He pulled up AOC's campaign store on the screen. Rows of products, sweatshirts, t-shirts, tote bags, pins, stickers. Look at this. It's beautiful. It's like if Shavara had a Shopify account. The audience laughed, even AOC's supporters. Trump zoomed in on a specific item. Tax the Rich sweatshirt. Classic. Let's check the price. The number appeared $58. Trump's mouth fell open. Theatrical shock. $58 for a sweatshirt that says tax the rich. He turned to the audience, hands spread in disbelief. Do you understand the irony? Do you comprehend the cosmic joke here? She is selling you a $58 sweatshirt to tell you that rich people are bad. The room was howling now. You know who buys $58 sweatshirts? Rich people. Poor people are at Walmart getting 3 shirts for $20. Trump walked to the whiteboard someone had wheeled out. Started writing numbers. Let me break down the economics. Because I'm in the merch business. Trump steaks, Trump water, Trump wine. I know merch. He wrote manufacturing cost. A sweatshirt like this costs about $8 to make. Let's say 10 with the screen printing. So we're at $10 all in. He wrote $10. She sells it for $58. He wrote $58. That's a $48 profit per sweatshirt. 83% profit margin. He underlined the number. You know who gets profit margins like that? Luxury brands. Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Hermes. Trump turned back to the audience. She's not running a campaign. She's running a luxury fashion brand. She's the Gwyneth Paltrow of socialism. The comparison got huge laughs. But wait, Trump held up a hand. It gets better. He pulled up more products. Green New Deal t-shirt, $30. Fight for Our Future tote bag, $30. Little enamel pins, $15 for something that costs about $50 to make. He scrolled through the store. She's got everything. Stickers, hats, phone cases. Oh, look, is that a dog bandana? She's selling dog bandanas for $20. He looked at the camera. Remember the dog spa in her building? Now she's selling bandanas for dogs. It's a whole ecosystem. Trump pulled out a calculator. Now she won't tell us how much she sold. That's private business information. How convenient, but let's estimate. He showed her Instagram follower count. 13 million. If even 1% bought something, and that's conservative, that's 130,000 customers. Average order, let's say $40. He calculated on the whiteboard, 130,000 pounds, 40 equals 5.2 million in revenue. The number hung there. Even if her profit margin is only 50%, which is low for merch, that's $2.66 million. He wrote, profit $2,600,000, $2.6 million from fighting capitalism by selling capitalism. Trump sat back down looking genuinely impressed. I got to give you credit. I've seen a lot of grifts. I've done a few grifts, but this is inspired. You're monetizing the revolution. You're making millions, telling people that making millions is wrong. He pulled up a comparison of his old campaign store. When I sold mega hats, you know what? I charged $25, and people called me a capitalist pig. But at least I wasn't pretending to hate capitalism while doing it. Trump stood up one more time. You're selling revolution at Nordstrom prices. You're the Shavara of overpriced merchandise. Your Etsy meets Karl Marx. He looked at the camera. And your followers, they're buying it. They're going into credit card debt to afford a $58 sweatshirt that tells them to tax rich people. You couldn't write this as satire. It's too perfect. Trump gathered his papers. But you know what the real kicker is? The thing that ties everything together. It's not even that you're rich. It's that everything you do is fake. The Met Gala dress, the luxury lifestyle, the grandma story, the boyfriend money, the overpriced merch. It's all performance, all content, all for the camera. He moved to his next section. Which brings me to my next point. Trump's voice dropped. More serious now. Building to something. Let's talk about your border trip 2018. Remember? He pulled up photos. AOC at a chain-link fence, hands on face, crying. The viral images that launched her into superstardom. These pictures, Trump said softly, they went everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, CNN, every newspaper. AOC breaks down at border. Ocasio-Cortez overcome with emotion at child detention. He showed the headlines, dozens of them. Very moving, very powerful, very... He paused, staged. The screen changed. Wider angle photos, different perspectives. The fence wasn't at a detention facility. It was a road barrier on an empty street. There were no facilities in the background, no children, no detention, just an empty parking lot. The audience gasped. You were crying at a parking lot, Trump said flatly. There were no kids, no detention center, not even a fence to a facility. It was a parking lot. He pulled up more photos, different angles, all showing the same thing. Staged performance. And here's the best part. Trump showed a sequence of images, time-stamped. These photos show you trying different poses. Hand on fence, too dramatic. Hands on face, better. Now, look sad. Sadder. Perfect. Hold it. The photos showed AOC clearly responding to direction, changing positions, performing. This was a photo shoot, Trump said. You brought photographers to a parking lot half a mile from the actual facility, posed like you were looking at detained children, and cried for the cameras. He showed the metadata. 20 minutes at this location, 0 minutes at the actual facility. You never went there. You went to a parking lot, took pictures, and left. Trump walked closer to the monitors. This is who you are. Everything. Everything is performance. The Met Gala address, the Tesla, the Abella story, the crying at the border. It's all content. All for Instagram. All for your brand. He pulled up her congressional record. You know how many significant bills you've passed in 5 years? Not introduced, not co-sponsored, actually passed and signed into law. A number appeared on screen. 00. Not one. You haven't passed a single major piece of legislation, but you've got 13 million Instagram followers. You've been on the cover of Time magazine. You've got a Netflix documentary. Trump turned to face her. You're not a congresswoman. You're a content creator who happens to work in Congress. Every moment is calculated. Every photo is staged. Every tear is for the camera. He pulled out one final document. Congressional schedule analysis. I had someone track how you spend your time. A pie chart appeared. 20% committee meetings, floor votes, actual congressional work. 30% media appearances. 50% social media photo oots. Brand management. Trump pointed at the chart. Half your time is spent on Instagram creating content, building your brand, monetizing your image. He walked back to his chair, sat down heavily. You're not here to govern. You're here to generate content. Congress is your studio, and America is your audience. Trump looked at the camera one last time. And you know what's sad? There are real problems in America. Real people struggling, real families who need help. But instead of helping them, you're making TikToks, you're doing photo oots, you're selling $58 sweatshirts. His voice hardened. You're not the solution. You're part of the problem. He stood up. Which brings me to my final question, the only question that really matters. The room went completely silent. Trump's entire demeanor changed. No more showmanship. No more jokes. This was serious. He walked around his desk, stood in the center of the stage between the two chairs under the lights. Alexandria, I want to ask you something very simple. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. The most dangerous tone yet. When you wake up in the morning, who do you serve? Pause. Let it breathe. I'm not asking about your job description. I'm not asking about your campaign slogans. I'm asking about your heart, your loyalty, your allegiance. He took a step closer. Because here's what I've seen tonight. I've seen someone who wears $50,000 dresses to parties with billionaires. I've seen someone who drives a $60,000 car while claiming to represent the working class. I've seen someone who refused to help her own grandmother because accepting help would have hurt her political brand. Each sentence landed like a hammer. I've seen someone who funnels millions to her boyfriend's company. I've seen someone who sells $58 sweatshirts to people who can't afford them. I've seen someone who stages photo oots at empty parking lots for Instagram likes. Trump's voice rose slightly. And I'm trying to understand, who does that person serve her constituents, her country, the Constitution? He paused, or herself. Trump walked back to his chair, picked up his pocket Constitution, the one he'd been carrying. This is America. Constitutional republic, limited government, individual liberty, free markets. El pluribus unum. He held it up. Do you love this? Do you love America as it is? Or do you only love your idea of what America should be? He set the Constitution down because there's a difference. You can't love someone you're constantly trying to change into something they're not. Trump looked directly at AOC. So, I'm going to ask you a very simple question. The simplest question I can think of, and I want a direct answer. No elaboration, no qualification, just yes or no. The room held its breath. Do you love America? Time stopped. AOC's eyes widened. She looked at her lawyer. He was shaking his head. Don't answer because it was a trap. Say yes contradicts every criticism of America she's ever made. Say no proves every conservative fear. Dodge proves she can't even say it. Mr. Trump, I think that's a complex question that requires no. Trump's voice was steel. It's the simplest question in the world. I love America. I can say it. Anyone in this room can say it. Can you? AOC looked down at her hands at the table. I love the promise of America, the ideal of America. But I believe we have work to do. to "That's not what I asked." Trump's voice cut through. "Do you love America? Yes or no?" The pause stretched. 5 seconds, 10, 15. Finally, AOC spoke, her voice small. "I love what America can be, but I also recognize that America has committed atrocities, has oppressed people." "So that's a no." Trump said it, named it. "You don't love America. You love your idea of what America should be, which is something different, something socialist, something not America." He picked up his folders, started gathering his papers. "I don't question that you came here seeking a better life. I don't question that America gave you opportunities. But somewhere along the way, you forgot to be grateful." Trump looked at her one final time. "You know what the difference is between me and you? I'm honest about who I am. I'm a billionaire. I live in a penthouse. I fly private. I eat expensive food. I wear expensive clothes. And I don't apologize for it because this is America. That's what America is about." He picked up his Constitution. "But you pretend. You pretend to be poor while living rich. You pretend to care about people while using them. You pretend to fight corruption while being corrupt. You pretend to love America while wanting to destroy everything that makes it America." He walked toward the exit. "At least I'm honest about being rich." He stopped at the door, turned back one more time. "You're dishonest about being a fraud." And he walked out. Behind him, chaos. Reporters shouting, AOC sitting alone, Anderson Cooper staring at nothing. The hearing was over, but the destruction had just begun. The clips hit the internet before Trump reached his car. Fox News led with it within 60 seconds. "Trump destroys AOC in explosive showdown." Tucker Carlson cleared his opening. Kennedy cleared his show. CNN tried to spin it. Personal attacks escalate. But even their analysts looked uncomfortable. MSNBC went full defense. Racist attack. But ratings tanked. Twitter erupted. Parking lot crying trended worldwide. "Do you love America?" hit number 2. Trump wins number 3. By midnight, 50 million views. By morning, 100 million. New York Post, The Reckoning. Wall Street Journal, Trump questions AOC on lifestyle. New York Times exchange highlights contradictions. By noon, Democratic Party distanced themselves. By 2:00 p.m., primary challenger announced Jessica Ramos, moderate Latina, raised $500,000 in 3 hours. By 5:00 p.m., polls showed AOC down 15 points. The squad rallied. AOC tweeted 47th thread explanation. Got ratioed. "I can't defend the $58 sweatshirt" became a meme. "I can't defend refusing help for grandma." Another "I can't defend" parking lot crying. The biggest FEC expanded investigation. 3 more challengers entered primary. Merchandise store reduced prices 40%. Sales dropped 80%. 2 weeks later, losing primary by 12 points. Democratic leadership. "We hope these questions can be resolved." Translation. "Please resign." Trump gave one interview. Fox Hannity. "I just asked questions. She gave answers. If those answers made her look bad, that's not my fault." The clip, 20 million more views. 3 months later, down 18 points. 6 months later, announced not seeking re-election. Spend time with family. Translation destroyed. Trump tweeted once, "Sad to see her go, but she taught us you can't build a brand on lies forever." Eventually, truth wins. 5 million likes. At Mar-a-Lago, Trump sat on his balcony. Ocean view, Diet Coke, phone, scrolling clips, the dress, Tesla, Abella, Boyfriend, sweatshirt, parking lot. Final question. All perfect, all true, all devastating. He smiled. Some people build buildings, some people build brands. She built hers on lies. He set his phone down. I just exposed them. Sunset, red and orange and gold. Somewhere in New York, AOC packed her congressional office. The champagne socialist myth. Reality always wins.